Hey guys, I'm Ethan Moore from Stockholm Supply here with
Vic Tesolin. He's in my shop instead of his shop.
That's right.
Amazing.
And, yes. So the reason we're here, we got a drum sander. This is what brand is this one?
This is the Supermax, basically Laguna runs it now.
So it's an overhead drum sander. Now what Vic wants to do is convert his drum sander to Velcro or hook and loop. And why do you want to do that, I guess?
So this, I'm going to start off by saying, first of all, this particular brand is probably the best system for holding the paper in place.
Right.
But it's still difficult to get it. You can see, like, you can shift the paper, and then you end up with areas. If we bring the camera a little bit closer here, you see you get areas where there's a gap here, but then see how you get this burnt area? That's where it's went under itself.
It's actually overlapped a little bit.
Right, exactly. And so that can be a real problem, especially when you're working on something sensitive, because like every time I'm using this tool, I'm basically slicing veneers and then taking the bandsaw marks out.
Gotcha.
And so you can see here, I was doing some cocobolo, and it put a nice burn mark down.
The whole length of the board.
Whole length of the board.
Yeah.
And so if we can convert this to hook and loop, I'm hoping that that will hold it in place and we don't have to worry about it. And you probably don't have to worry about getting it packed so tight together either.
It'll do a couple things for you. Now this one is a pretty well-designed clip system, but a lot of them aren't, and they're a pain in the butt to change. Yeah, well, you probably have used them before. But obviously the hook and loop is going to make it far easier to change the paper. But also, you won't have to worry about the overlapping, pending you put the sandpaper on properly. But once it's on, it's not going to move.
Like the rough side out, you mean?
Yeah, you want the rough side out.
All right.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's take a look at how we're going to modify this.
Love it. So the next thing else we'll talk about here is we got the drum here. Now this is great. We still have a piece of sandpaper on here. So to find the angle of the Velcro, we're going to basically copy this piece of sandpaper that's already attached. Now, if you don't have any sandpaper on your drum, one little tip, you can get yourself a string. Now, you want a string that doesn't have any elasticity to it, isn't stretchy. You want that so I've actually got a little copper wire here, but it'll be a little difficult on this particular machine, but if you wrap that wire around the diameter, I'll just show you here, around the diameter of the drum, you cut that wire to the exact length of the diameter of the drum there. What you can then do with that stretch of wire, you lay that across the Velcro, tip to tip on the widest points of the Velcro there, and that's going to be your angle that you need to cut that at. Thankfully, we don't have to do that.
Yeah, I saved this one here for you.
Yeah,
so
this is great.
We can just pop this out. Now, the other thing that bears mentioning too is that there's quite a bit of paper like this little tab here is what actually goes into this. So I guess technically we don't really need that bit, do we? Like would we...
Like once we have the Velcro, the new paper on there?
Yeah.
I mean, you'll still, you can choose to use the clips or not, but generally you're not going to.
I don't think we need it. No. Because your Flatmaster doesn't need clips.
No, it doesn't.
So then I would say this is probably the same.
Yeah.
All right. So let's pull that off.
Yeah.
That's very gratifying, isn't it?
Now, the other thing I guess is worth mentioning, most of these, including this one, are 3-inch wide paper. So we sell the Velcro in different widths, 3-inch, 6-inch, or 12-inch. Now, 3-inch is by far the most popular and easiest to wrap on the drum. Now, if your drum happens to use 4-inch wide, which is somewhat common, you're just going to have to find the proper angle for the 3-inch wide Velcro, so you won't be able to match your sandpaper that we have here.
Okay, cool. All right, let's cut the Velcro. So Ethan, if you could grab this wire again and just show people what you meant about lining it up. How, like, we don't have the exact length, but what are you actually lining up in order to mimic this?
Right. So once we get the diameter, that's the length of the wire here. You put one end of the wire on this edge of the Velcro, and then line the other end up right there, and that will be the angle that you need to cut the Velcro or the sandpaper, if you're putting new sandpaper on your drum, right along that wire edge there.
Ethan Moore, you're a genius.
I'm not, But I appreciate that back.
All right. All right, so if we line up this now with the edge of that paper, and then hold that in place.
Okay, you got the ruler there.
Yep.
Get rid of that. You got X-Acto knife.
And so Ethan's going to do his very best job not to slice me open.
I will do my best. You're absolutely right. I got you to sign that that little poem.
The medical release.
I don't know if you read that or not.
Yeah, the small print.
Okay, we got a slice on there. Maybe I'll do one more.
Yeah, do one more just to be sure. There it goes.
Yeah, we're through here.
Yeah. It's always better to do a couple of light passes than one heavy one, I always find.
Yeah. So
Oh, look at that.
Split. All right, there's our first angle. Now, there's a couple ways we could do this. We could lay the sandpaper out along the length of the Velcro,
Right.
and get our other angle.
Okay.
Or we could put this angle on the drum, start wrapping it, and then at the very end, just trim off the excess.
Oh, okay. What do you think will be better?
It doesn't really matter. I think what we'll do, though, if it's okay with you, we'll start wrapping it, and we'll trim off the excess at the end.
Sounds good.
Just so guys can see how to do that.
Perfect. Let's do it. Okay, so Ethan brought up a good point. This is a pretty clean cylinder here, but there is a little bit of dirt and corruption on there. So what are we going to do?
We'll just clean it. Vic's got some acetone here and just a shop towel. So we'll dip a little bit of this on the towel, and we'll give her a wipe down before we put the fresh Velcro on there.
Because I would imagine, like, the glue on that Velcro, like, it all depends on mating up with a clean surface. If
Absolutely,
there's any oils or anything like that, even from touching it, I'm sure could cause problems.
Anytime you touch that, you're leaving oil on there. But it is, I don't know what the word is, a super sticky abrasive material.
Tenacious.
Tenacious. It's
In
commercial
the words
grade.
of Ren from Ren and Stimpy.
Right. So it's good stuff. But yeah, it's still best practice. Make sure this is good and clean. We'll let that acetone all dry here.
Yeah, it should flash off pretty quickly. Don't have your head right over something that you're working with acetone. It's not like nail polish remover. It's a lot stronger than that. And if you just finished having a French
You
manicure,
see the stuff we got out there.
don't use the acetone because you'll waste all that money.
Right. And thankfully I booked mine for after this video, so
Perfect.
we should be good.
Perfect. All right, so Ethan is going to do the wrapping here because he's wrapped a lot of cylinders in his day, and so I'm fairly confident that I would screw this up. So, Ethan, do you need me to do anything? Do you want me to hold anything? Do you want me to, like, shout encouraging words?
That might be helpful.
Okay,
but,
go
beyond
Ethan!
that, no, we're probably good. So obviously, before you wrap it, make sure this edge that you've cut is going to be on the edge of the drum that you're wrapping.
So you want that angled bit to line up with the straight
exactly.
side. Okay.
Sometimes, without thinking, you can do it the opposite way, but that's not going to work out. You want the cut edge in line with the edge that you're going to start with. I prefer wrapping from left to right. Now, if you're left-handed, you may prefer wrapping from right to left. It just kind of depends on which side of the machine you stand on. Functionally, it doesn't make any difference.
Okay.
But I'll get started here. So I just like to take off a little bit of a tip.
Right, so don't take the entire backing off.
Don't take the entire backing off. And I got a little square edge. We're just going to start that basically where that clip is.
Okay.
So we're
Gonna
going to
move the camera here so we have a nice view of what you're doing there.
So we're going to roll that drum just with your other hand, and at the same time you're going to unwrap the backing. We're going to try to keep that Velcro nice and flat and taut.
No bubbles.
No bubbles. Now,
This is not your regular everyday Velcro, though, is it?
no, this is like you're not going to get this at a typical store. This is commercial grade.
Okay.
This is pretty serious stuff. So you don't really want to screw it up. So I did pretty well there.
Yes.
Now, this first wrap is by far the most important. If you screw this first wrap up, you're going to want to go back, and it's hard to go back, but you can.
Okay.
Go backwards, kind of start again until you have this nice and lined up. You're going to want to keep that within that gap within about 1/8 of an inch.
Okay.
And as you're wrapping,
That's 3 millimeters for us.
Sure.
Metric folks.
As you're wrapping, you do have a little bit of control. You can steer that slightly one way or another, but not really a whole lot. So, and if you do need to steer it, you got to steer it slowly. You're not going to want to try to move that over abruptly. It's got to be done kind of gently as you go. So yeah, we'll give that a wrap here.
Okay, so here's where it gets weird. Now we're getting to the end, right?
Yeah, so if I were to cut this to length right off the bat, basically this should line. Now, we might be a little bit off if we cut that sandpaper, if we cut that Velcro right in line with the sandpaper, because the sandpaper itself could have been a little bit off.
Okay.
But what we're going to do here, we're going to wrap this. If I have a little extra, we're going to keep wrapping this right over the edge here. Now, there's not a lot of room. That's where this is going to get a little tricky.
So you're basically going to just let it run itself out.
Yeah, so what I'll do here, I can go to about there. This will be enough.
So you're leaving yourself about 12 inches there of extra.
A little extra, yeah. So we got this cut off here. So we'll keep wrapping this around. There you go, nice and straight. So yeah, you can see how you can back up.
Yep.
All right. So we got this on there. Obviously, this edge is very ugly. I just kind of hogged it off here so that this drum would spin. What we're going to do, though, we're going to get a nice, sharp, fresh X-Acto blade. And we're just going to nick this little edge right here. Okay. And we're going to keep this blade up against the drum. And what we'll do...
So the drum's like the straight edge.
So the drum's like the straight edge. Sometimes it's more difficult than others, but
that's working.
We'll follow that drum along. Yeah, so cool. There we got new Velcro on the drum.
Okay, so I guess the next thing we're going to talk about is options for sandpaper.
Yes.
And we're going to head to your shop to do that.
Yeah, perfect.
Perfect. We'll see you then. All right, well, we're in a different spot now. We're at Ethan's shop, and so we wanted to talk about sandpaper.
Yes, so there's two main styles that are options for you, Vic.
Okay.
Now, the first one, this is our most common for our Flatmaster.
Okay.
Now, this is a PS33. Mainly, what that means, this is a paper back.
Okay.
So it's got sandpaper glued to the paper.
Yes.
And then there's Velcro or a hook and loop on the back of that.
Okay.
Now, this is fine. But the problem that you'll find, especially with a drum sander like yours, it'll tear quite easy.
Ooh. Okay.
So, for anybody with an overhead drum sander, like what we've done with yours,
yep.
Converted to Velcro, I would use this stuff here. This is LS311. It's gold. It's a little more expensive, but it's got sandpaper glued to cloth.
Oh, it's cloth back.
Yes, exactly. And then you got the hook and loop on the back. So it's far tougher, far less likely to tear.
Okay.
So this will be what you want for a drum sander, like what you have there.
Okay, because the stuff that I currently use is cloth back.
Exactly.
So
yep.
This is the same thing.
Yep, exactly. Okay. Now, the other thing I wanted to say, when you cut the angle, you can see that sharp point there.
Yes.
There's not a lot of Velcro left on the very tip.
Right.
So what you'll want to do, I didn't bring scissors with me, but if you just cut that off nice and square, and
not frayed like that.
Not frayed like that. But you take some scissors, lop that off straight. That's going to stick a whole lot better to your drum. So you'll do that on both points. It just will stick way better.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to go to the shop, put this on there, and then I'll let you know how it goes.
Love it.
Thanks. All right, so back in the shop here, we followed Ethan's advice and picked up the fabric-backed hook and loop sandpaper. One thing to note is that on the belts there are directional arrows, and so you want to make sure that you're following those when you're cutting these, because you don't want to cut it backwards. So I'm using an old belt as a template, and I'm just going to line up my ruler with the template. I'm going to take this little clip off here because it was just preventing that from happening. And with a nice sharp knife, we're going to score to start. And then go a little heavier. And then a little heavier, and that should get us all the way through. Got a little bit left here at the end. Oh, it's gone. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, and now we're going to attach the Velcro back sandpaper to the drum. And this should be a heck of a lot easier than trying to do it with the other belts because this is sticking as we go. Alright, so one of the things I'm noticing here is that the drum is turning in this direction, and this, I feel like, is going to cause a problem. So, we've still got the area here where I can use the clamp, so I'm going to stick that in there. Even though I've got Velcro here, I just feel like this is going to be more secure. Oh, I gotta cut into that a little bit. Okay, there we go. So now we've got that Velcroed as well as in the clamp that you would normally use. Got a little area here where we've got some overlap. I'm not too worried about it because most of my work gets done within here. I don't often go outside. So let's see how this works. Okay, well, we put it through on both sides of this piece of hard maple, and you can definitely feel that 80 grit was working. What we were concerned with was whether or not the paper was going to stay in place or whether or not the drum itself would heat up and maybe cause the Velcro to lose a bit of its tack, or maybe it would loosen off, but everything is staying perfectly where it needs to be. The belt hasn't shifted at all in its use, and so that's pretty good. So I don't know. I think we might have a winner here. Okay, well, this was a bit of an experiment, and I think it worked out well. We're getting good results on the surface. This is a piece of maple. The real test may be down the road when we use something that's got some more oil in it, like rosewoods or things like that. But I don't know, I think this conversion works, and I'm going to keep using it, and we'll keep you posted. But if you own one of these machines and you're tired of playing around with the sandpaper, you might want to contact the folks at Stockroom Supply and get some of this adhesive back Velcro and use the Velcro belts. It'll make your life a lot easier, and I certainly can see that I will be more willing to change belts, maybe to go from an 80 to 120 grit, whereas before I would hesitate because of all of the pain involved in changing belts. So thanks, Ethan, for helping me out with this, and I think we got a winner, buddy.